Welcome to the Consciously Connected podcast.
We're so excited to dive into this episode where we're going to be pulling out some juicy stuff. We are going to be pulling out shadows that are running in yourself individually and in your relationship that's creating disconnection where you maybe don't necessarily see what's happening. But you
Mhm.
go in as the feminine and you're wanting to be vulnerable, you want to be seen, you want to share your emotions. And then the masculine comes in and immediately gets triggered, immediately feels like they're being attacked, immediately feels not good enough and pulls away or reacts and lashes out. And then as a feminine, you stop. You stop sharing, you stop being vulnerable, you close your heart and you pull away and you start avoiding. And this dynamic then creates a cycle of disconnect for God knows how long.
Forever. I mean, you act like we've lived it or something.
We absolutely have lived this pattern and we awakened to it several years ago, and then we've had to like lead ourselves in the layers where we notice that it's still happening. And I really noticed it in 2024 when I awakened to the fact that how bad I was self-abandoning my own emotions
Hmm.
to feed and fuel and pour into your wound of not good enough, and really trying to energetically like pump and restill you to that masculine leader by being and becoming the masculine energy essentially, and shutting down my emotional body and shutting down my open
Yeah.
heart and shutting down my feminine essence. And so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And, I learned a lot too in that time period. I mean, throughout this whole space, I think it's just been an involvement in multiple layers. I think now we're just finding little nuance pieces of who we are still operating that way where we can attack it in the moment instead of like, hey, this is 3 years in the making. This is 3 minutes in the making. Let's deal with this shit today.
Well, and it's just like a normal unconscious thing running for both of
Yeah.
us. Like, and if you're listening to this, if you recognize this pattern in your relationship, even if it's not just your intimate relationship, but maybe your friendships, maybe your relationships with your family or your relationships with your kids, where you have this dynamic where you're on one or the other side and you may flip flop sides.
Hmm.
There might be some moments where you're in the space of like, I'm the person bringing forth the emotion and something I want to like express and be seen and felt in, or to be understood or to be heard because it's something I'm feeling or a problem that I'm having or something that I'm triggered by or something that I want to change. And expressing those feelings and expressing yourself then becomes like a huge freaking argument, or it becomes like now
Yes.
you've offended the other person. And then the other person, then you feel like, oh man, like I didn't want to offend the other person. I just wanted to be seen and heard, or I just wanted to be able to have
Hmm.
a conscious conversation about what I'm seeing so then we can fix it, versus it being like this big trigger conversation that leads into a big fight, that leads into the other person feeling not good enough or feeling whatever. And you might notice yourself on the other end where when somebody brings something to you that feels attacking or that feels like they're blaming you for how they feel or blaming you for what's going on in their life, and then you immediately feel defensive, you go into like, that energy of reaction.
Yeah, I think too, and this, like, I think it's very important that we reiterate, like, the man and the woman can both play both roles in this,
Hmm.
and you'll flip flop, and as we talk and kind of give solutions or talk about like better ways to do it, I want women to be very open eared as much as I want men, because I'm going to pour the heat in men right now. But women, I want y'all to understand that when men come to you in vulnerability, it's important that you hold them the same way you want to be held, because, we got big feelings too. We got emotions. We may not let you want in on them, but when we do, and you go into judgment or attack or criticism or belittling or shutting it down, you're not going to get much more.
Yeah. Well, and it's the space where like even men, they aren't necessarily raised to express those emotions. It's
Mm-mm.
like suck it up, buttercup. And so And I think there's two pathways to that even. So it's like, okay,
Yes.
a man coming to express his emotions um is extremely like a vulnerable place, of course, and may
Hmm.
not be something that he's used to doing. But also it's a space sometimes where the feminine can feel like I need to go into my masculine energy. And I think we need to debunk what that may be like. There's a very
Yes.
big difference in being holding space and being nurturing versus I need to go in my masculine energy and fix his emotions and move in a way that you feel like you're leading him into solutions. That's masculine energy. Feminine
Hmm.
nurturing energy is holding safe space for emotion and allowing him to express his emotions without judgment, ridicule, criticism.
Yes. 100%. I think that's super vital. Like, if the masculine can hold the frame of holding somebody's emotions, the feminine can hold the frame of holding somebody's emotions. And just do
Yeah.
it from the feminine perspective. The masculine can do it from the masculine perspective.
Yeah, and the masculine perspective is more like grounding, really truly listening, seeking to understand versus
Mhm.
trying to, defend. Like, and I think for both people, and this is something that we coach on so much with clients, it's something we've had to grow in ourselves, is the number one thing you can do when somebody brings something to you, whether it be a partner or a client or a family member or a kid, whatever it may be, when somebody brings something to you where your initial reaction may be either one to go into defense or
Yeah.
reactivity or be triggered or be um moving through where you're taking the conversation through the own lens of your own stories and then making it mean something. It's like more
Mhm.
so the number one thing you can do is get super inquisitive. We always teach and coach clients, the first thing you do in a conversation is get super inquisitive, because if you don't have
Mhm.
the facts, if you don't truly understand what they're bringing and what they're saying, if you're taking what they're saying through the filters of your own stuff and your own stories and your own reactivity, then you are not actually getting to what they're trying to bring to you. And
Mhm.
if we think about the fact that everybody's trying to get their needs met, and everybody's trying to have conversations so that they can be seen, felt, heard, understood, respected, trusted, desired, like these core needs that we have, every conversation is probably from that place. But oftentimes we take the conversation from an energy of, you're doing this, you're the problem, I need you to fix it because you're causing me inconvenience, you're causing me hurt, you're causing me
Mhm.
annoyance, you're causing me whatever. And 9 times out of 10, we can lead ourselves in conversation that doesn't necessarily ignite a trigger response by
Yes.
removing the word you, or removing the attacking language. But that's not necessarily what this episode's about. We're going to dive into
Mm-mm.
that on another episode.
Yeah. Let's
But
talk about this pattern, how it starts. I think it's important to see the pattern for people. Like, how does the pattern function? And then what causes people to run their connection off the rails, so to speak.
well, go ahead, baby, talk about it.
Uh,
Like, I
so I
mean,
think the beginning of the pattern in any capacity, and I want to talk about it from the lens of the feminine, the woman bringing feelings to the masculine, because I think this happens the most often is when a woman opens herself in vulnerability to share with her partner what she's feeling, what she's seeing, what she's observing, what's scary for her, what's making her feel lack of safety. And that's the beginning phase. Like, here I am. I need you to see me.
mhm.
And what happens after that?
Well, it's like, okay, so a lot of people that we coach, and you may be listening to this and you may be like, okay, I resonate fully with this.
Mhm.
Or it might be like you're kind of on the opposite side of this. So, a lot of women that I coach and that we coach in couples dynamics are moving and operating kind of from this wounded masculine energy, where it's
Yes.
like moving to express emotion isn't necessarily comfortable,
Yeah.
isn't necessarily something you're used to. Vulnerability actually is kind of on layers programmed to be weakness.
Yes.
Vulnerability and bringing vulnerability to somebody is kind of a hard thing to do. So expressing your emotions to somebody or bringing something about how you feel, and just kind of the feminine really wanting to be seen and heard, but moving from this like wounded masculine energy of I can't be seen and heard. I'm an independent boss bitch. I'm in control. I got it. I don't need somebody's advice. Don't need somebody's help. Like this whole energy of like control, of being in power, vulnerability equals weakness. And so you're not very emotional in the sense of you probably bypass your emotions a good bit, but it's like, okay, so you have this dynamic, we'll explore that one first. You start to bring emotions to your masculine partner, and at the core the feminine wants the masculine to see and hear and understand her and then
Yeah.
choose her, and then at the core wants to feel connection through emotional intimacy. And so that can be achieved through being seen and heard in her emotions, emotional intimacy, emotions into me you see. And
Hmm.
so it's like we bring emotions in that space, and then when it feels like there's on the other side of the wounded masculine, there's the wounded feminine. And the response to that is the wounded feminine, which goes into not good enough, I'm the problem, I can never get it right, I'm this, I'm that, filtering what is being brought to them as like, this is on me, it's my fault. And you see this a lot in men that take the woman's emotion and make it mean something about them specifically and then run with that and don't actually
Yeah.
ever like get inquisitive to understand or truly see her and her emotions without that filter of being triggered into their own stuff, and then obviously moving from that and then getting defensive and reactionary, and almost like there I always say it like this to my clients, like it's like both of your little ninjas are coming out to play, and like you're getting
Hmm.
in there and you're like fighting each other, and both of your ninjas are trying to fight each other to get your needs met,
Yeah.
and at the end of the
100%.
day there's this disconnect that then winds up happening.
Yeah, and I think it lends to multiple different frames. Obviously, a man, most men, I'm not saying all men, but
Hmm.
most men don't grow up in emotionally safe environments. They've never really been taught what to do with their own emotional body. And then they definitely never been taught what to do with a woman's emotional body.
Yeah.
And because emotions are so foreign to them, even if they're operating from a wounded feminine energy, when emotions come out and it's directed in their direction, their first thought is, oh, fuck, what did I do? And
Hmm.
it's not like, all right, why do you feel? It's, what did I do to make you feel? And we take on because men, and obviously wounds play a big part, but there's also this part of men like, we want to get it right. We just want to get it right. It's our goal. How many times have I told you, I just want to fucking get it right? And I've told you that 1,000 times in our relationships. Like, I just want to get it right. And so when we see our partner hurt, distraught, broken, even though we don't even know what the fuck's going on, we feel we didn't get something right. And that's not even nowhere near the case 99% of the time. But we're not taking time enough to understand why you feel the way you feel. So we just start running your feelings through our filters and we start to feel. And
Yeah, because
then,
at the end of the day, there's like your truth, your feelings, my feelings, and then the truth energetically in the
yes,
shadows, all underneath that. Yeah.
100%. And then it goes into, like you said, like, hey, once we start that roller coaster of you bring emotions, your emotions make me have emotions. My emotions get bigger because men's emotions are big. They're not like these small little anthills. When men have emotions, Jocelyn, like my menopause be up there. Like them emotions get big, my myriad gets big. And when that happens, women have no other choice in that moment other than to circumvent their own emotional body to then take care of you. And when that happens, number one, the polarity breaks. Number two, safety breaks. Number three, emotions get stuffed in the woman, which causes untold amounts of pain, problems, and trauma within the body. And what also happens is like the man never really learns the lesson. The lesson is, what would it feel like to understand your partner rather than to make your partner feel like, make her partner's feelings mean something about you?
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's both shadows kind of playing on each other. So if we got to the real core of the energetics of the situation, what we typically find is you have a woman who doesn't trust the masculine, a
Yes.
woman who isn't 100% in tune with understanding her emotions and leading herself in her emotions and understanding where they're coming from in her own wounds and what she's projecting outside of herself. And what I deal with a lot of time, which was myself and then a lot of my clients, where it's like you're super conscious, you're super self-aware, you've done a ton of work, you have a ton of things to draw from, you can see things potentially higher than even your partner can see them. You're more
Hmm.
in tune, you're more hyper vigilant, you're more scanning constantly on safety and how to protect yourself. And so this energy then is brought to these conversations. And then the reciprocal wound match for that is having a man who can't hold space for your emotions, having a man you can't trust his masculine leadership, having a man that you have to be in control, having a man you have to self abandon your own self for to then pour into and build him up.
Hmm.
And so it's like that dynamic can play. You can also have it flipped, where you have a woman who's very emotional, very in her wounded feminine energy and doesn't feel good enough. And she doesn't actually feel comfortable bringing her emotions to the masculine man because she feels she's going to be criticized, or she feels she's not going to feel not enough, or she's going to be downplayed, or she's not going to be heard. And then she reiterates the fact that she's too much. She
Yeah.
reiterates the fact that her emotions are too much. And so that's kind of the female side. And you can kind of
Yeah.
dive
And
into
so like
that
the
kind of.
masculine ultimate desire for everybody out there to understand, like the masculine's ultimate desire is peace. Like, is there peace? No, but the ultimate desire is always peace. So when faced with emotions, that is for the man lack of peace. And so he's trying to figure out a way to bring peace to a situation. And a lot of times, because he's never been trained, taught, or programmed to understand how to connect with emotions, hear other people's emotions, be curious about other people's feelings and emotions. He's been taught to solve problems, solve. Solution, solution, solution. Well, you can't fix feelings, right? I've learned this lesson a million times to the point where it's just like, I remember you telling me several years ago, like, baby, if you could just sit here and not say anything, but just listen to what I'm feeling, that would mean the world to me. I'm like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Like, not computing in my logical mind. I say, so
Yeah,
you just want me to sit here and not say shit back? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
On the other side, you hated when you would bring emotions to me and I would go into fixing and trying to find the solution. So
100%.
we do this to each other and we don't even realize it. So
Yes,
it's like, oh, I hate when he does this, or I hate when she does this. Yet if we go looked in the mirror, we would see that we're operating from the same way. And a lot of
absolutely.
times this is unconsciously running, and we project outside of ourselves that, oh, they're the problem, they're doing this, they're operating this way, they don't do this for me, they don't do that for me. But we have yet to, in some of those circumstances, really own the fact that we're operating from that same lens, and we can judge and criticize, and we can make it somebody else's fault, and we can energetically move to chastise them in that energy of what they're not being or how they're not showing up. But in reality, we're doing the same shit, and it's literally a mirror.
Yeah. And that's where the unconscious comes in,
Yep.
because like now where we are in our relationship, that pattern doesn't run as often. Like your need to correct my emotions or fix my emotions
Yeah.
isn't there. My need to fix yours as much isn't there. And so, but and so now we're more in the game of trying to understand. But
Yes.
before then, like I thought I was the one that was always trying to fix shit. I didn't realize until I brought my emotions to you. Oh, she does the same thing, and I'm like, I remember saying this all the time. You fuck. If I've said double standard one time, I've said it 100 times. Like this is a double standard. You're like, what are you talking about? And then one day you're like, oh, I do this shit. It's like, yeah, you do it too.
Yeah. And the biggest awakening kind of goes into this kind of second point of this process that winds up happening as you go, you're vulnerable with your emotions, you get
Hmm.
a reactive, defensive, not good enough, triggered. And sometimes that trigger and that defensive then turns into cut down,
Yeah.
turns into trying to energetically become the more powerful person
Yes.
without consciously doing this. This is unconscious behavior, but it's like energetically now we're trying to become the more powerful person because now I'm offended by you and now I'm defensive and now I'm going to make you suffer for what you just brought to me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to make myself more powerful in the process because now I'm triggered and fuck you, basically.
Yeah.
So, but the second part of that specifically, I feel like this happens to through the feminine, but I know it's also could be the reciprocal in some circumstances too for the masculine. But it's like you come and you're sharing yourself or you're expressing your feelings and your emotions, and then you get that reaction on the other end where they go into
Hmm.
like I'll never be enough or I can't do enough for you or you're always this or you're always that, and then it's like okay, now I feel too much, now I feel like
Yeah.
my emotions are too much, I feel like now I need to go into fix it mode or like pour the energy so that he now feels more powerful so that then I'm safe, like rise him back into his masculine power and leadership, make him feel good again, or go and, serve and coach and mother his emotions now. And then basically like abandon my own so that then I feel safe again. But there's like this space where when you're self abandoning your own emotions to then pour into someone else's, one, you just push your own emotions down,
Yep.
which manifests in multiple different ways: dis-ease in the body, weight gain, feeling heavy, more armor and protection, energetically fatigued, exhausted, nervous system dysregulation. I mean, there's so many things that then go
Yes.
into that space. But it's like, okay, now I've abandoned my own emotions because I tried to bring something to you to connect with, and now I need to abandon that and actually go serve you. And this, when I had this realization that I was doing this, it was like it was serving me because on some levels I wasn't really in tune with my emotions, essentially. My own self, for through my own self.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, so it was like it was a mirror. It was a mirror to a degree, but it also was a mirror to me being a fixer, me pouring into like my partner for potential, me
Hmm.
energetically abandoning myself to energetically pour into someone else. Like all these things were a mirror to my own shit. But our
Hmm.
brain goes, he's the problem. Our
Hmm.
brain goes, now he couldn't hold space for my emotions. He couldn't listen to me. It's always about him. He's always feeling not good enough or he's reactionary. And we go into these things and we make it all about that person, which then
Hmm.
creates disconnect in our mind and heart. It puts on more armor and protection because they're not trustworthy
Yep.
and I'm not seen and heard and I'm not understood and I'm constantly having to energetically pour out, and then you wind up projecting outside of yourself, which causes a disconnection. That
Absolutely.
energy then fuels into the other person. And then their energy is, I can never be good enough. She's always criticizing. She's
Hmm.
always judging me. She's always showing up to fix me.
Yeah, and that comes from for men. It's like this idea. For some reason, men have been programmed to believe they're only as valuable as the shit they do. And so, like, a man can be super successful, providing money, taking care of A, B, C, D, F, and G. But then when his wife comes with emotions, and his first thought is like, "But I'm doing everything," but he doesn't understand he's not being anything for his wife. He's not being a grounding force. He's not being emotionally supportive. He's not being emotionally mature in his own self. And so he's comparing what she's feeling to what he's doing. And for the logic of him is like, but I make all the money and I'm taking out the groceries and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. Why are you upset? Like, what is wrong? And he doesn't,
Yeah.
but he doesn't ask that question. So his immediate thing is, I'm doing all this shit and she still feels this way. I got to do more shit.
Yeah.
I got to have a different checklist. I got to do this. And so we start to think up all these quote unquote logical ideas in our head. They're just stories as to why the doingness of who we are is not good enough for her to feel good about us. But what we don't pay attention to is like we've been programmed to believe that. The reality
Mhm.
is we're just human beings, like she's a human being. We have emotions. Humans feel. We feel shit. And if we don't allow ourselves to feel, like you said, we stuff all that down. It causes disease, trauma, drama, everything else. And really, what it causes in the relationship is separation. And when you're not able to hear somebody else's emotions or convey your emotions to your partner, that's going to be a pretty quick into that relationship dynamic
Well,
because,
there's no emotional intimacy, and then what you
yeah,
see on the back end
there's
is
no
then the
physical.
man.
Sorry, I jumped in there. Yeah.
Go ahead, you can finish it
No,
out.
I mean, because like this is what I get hit with all the time. Like, my wife don't want to sleep with me. Well, yeah, when's the last time you actually were curious about what's going on with her? What do you mean? I make all the money and I do this and I do. No, I didn't say that. I said, when have you been present to
Yeah.
understand her? Like to know what's
Hmm.
going on, to be curious about the human you relate with. You sleep in this bed with this woman, but you don't know shit about her.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and it's a perpetual cycle that started from an energy from the jump, but then it just stacks, and we stack different emotions, we stack different things, and every action has a reaction. But this is all unconsciousness that's running, and then we're sitting there and we're like, so disconnected, not feeling emotionally safe or heard or feel good. Then we're not feeling physically connected
Hmm.
because the emotional intimacy is not there, the connection's not there. And so then the physical feels like, oh, once again, I'm going to self abandon. I'm not really turned on, but I feel like this is
Yeah.
my duty to do so. Or
Hmm.
it's like the person is like coming and wanting physical and it feels almost like an annoyance because there's not an emotional connection there, or there's been a disconnect or a break in the emotional intimacy or the safety of emotional intimacy, and therefore then it's just a perpetual problem that creates more and more disconnect for both people.
Yes.
And when we move into like the shadows that are actually running, it's like it's a constant projection outside of ourselves
Yes.
as if our partner is the problem, and we blame shame our partner when really we haven't actually looked at our side of the street on what and how we are, one, a co-creation of this problem,
Yes.
two, a wound match, and how our wounds are mirroring this or we would not be experiencing it. And
Yes.
this resistance or something that's happening is really trying to actually wake you up to alchemize the shadow that's running so that you can have more of what you actually desire.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that's super important right there is instead of this meaning something bad about y'all, like your relationship,
Yeah.
like let's look at it as this is something we need to learn so this doesn't keep happening in our relationship. And the reason why we're doing this podcast is because we get approached by this by so many people. Number one. Number two, this was a huge dynamic in our relationship and really keeping us from being super connected for a long period of time. And once we got to the other side of it, like the connection in our relationship went through the roof. And it was because we took an opportunity to look at our individual selves and how we were showing up to the other, and also, we took the opportunity to hold each other accountable to what we needed from each other for once. Like, we wanted emotional safety, we wanted emotional connection, we wanted that level of being able to be vulnerable and understand each other. But we wouldn't allow it because our wounds kept getting in the way of it. And so we had to literally, I mean, like I said earlier, like Jocelyn's like, can you just sit there and listen, not saying anything? And like I was like, sure, that makes no sense, but I'll do it. But the more I did it, and the more curious I got, because not only did I want to sit there and listen, but I also want to sit there and ask questions instead of sit there and feel offended. The first time I sat and listened, I realized halfway through the conversation, this has nothing to do with me. But if for the way I used to operate was, as soon as the emotions happen, oh shit, I fucked it all up. And it was my immediate thought. What have I done? What ladder do I need to climb down to fix this? But sitting in that one moment where I heard one conversation, it's like, oh, she just wanted to tell me how she was feeling. And I didn't have to even feel anything. I could just literally
Mhm.
have sympathy and empathy for her. And so the next time it was, I wanted to be curious. And so then the part of me come online was like, I could ask a question here that might help her. And it definitely is going to help me because there's just a lot of noise coming at me. And I need to understand what noise I'm hearing because my brain is not trained for emotional processing at this point. So I had to train myself to understand it.
Yeah, and I work with women all the time that it's like there's that piece too, and I know you work with men in this regard too, but there's that piece too where it's like, okay, before we even get to the conversation, before we're even expressing
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry. I disagree. I get my church going on in here. Amen.
I'm like, I lose all track of thought. I'm like, he's all over my words, and I'm like, wait a minute, what was I just saying? Um, so what I was saying is, there's like this space where it's like I coach women with this, and he coaches men with this, and it's like this space where it's like before we even get to the conversation, have we have we come into the understanding of looking at ourselves first? Because if we come into a conversation and we want to share emotion or we want to share something, like how we bring it forward is also important, because it's like if I'm wanting to bring my emotions to you because I want you to see them and I want you to feel them and I want you to make me feel better in them and I want you to validate me in them and I want you to fill the holes within myself of them and I want you to leave me out of them, like all of that is me not showing up in my embodied leadership. And I work with a lot of, like I said, very self aware women. So they can see themselves. They maybe can pull a lot of information that they've learned about the situation. And they can then say, okay, now I'm going to bring this forward. And I'm going to talk to him calmly and bring it softly and not be attacking and like filtering it through all the stuff they've learned. But then it's like, still in the energy of I need you to fix it. I need you to hear my problem. I need for you to lead me in this. I need for you to see it from my perspective when there's been not actual embodied leadership on, did I lead myself in this? Have I seen where this is my own shit and it is my
Mhm.
responsibility and it's not something it's actually his to fix or to fulfill or whatever? And then how am I energetically bringing that conversation? Is it from an
Mhm.
attack energy? Is it from you're the problem? Is it from I'm judging you? Do we see ourselves in it and alchemize those things before we come and say, like, I know there's been, just to give an example, I know there's been lately where I'll come to you and I'll say, I really would like to talk to you about something that, you know, was created, and I know it's my own stuff, or I know like this is my responsibility, but I want to be able to share it with you. And I need you to listen to me as if you're listening to your sister who's talking about her boyfriend, or I need you to listen with your ears and not your triggers. I need you to listen to me
Mhm.
as if this is my experience and it's not something that you're responsible for,
Yeah,
because I
absolutely.
became conscious enough of that situation to know that it was my own, but yet sharing it with you and then having you understand me And us be able to connect through that is very powerful. That creates a deep emotional intimacy. But if I came to you and I'm like, this is your problem, this is what you're doing, and I hadn't led myself through the understanding of my own self, and I didn't bring it with that perspective, it would immediately feel defensive. It would immediately to feel
Hmm.
like your emotions are now like my fault. And although there some things that you were doing and some things that you were operating in created emotions that then it felt like it was your fault, it really was my own stuff. Or there's sometimes that you do things that really is your own shit that I'm not okay with or that I have a higher standard for or whatever. And it's like, okay, I want to bring something to you that I'm not putting you down. I'm not criticizing you on, but it's something I want to bring awareness to so that we can both consciously talk about this and create a different feeling around it. Because right
Yeah.
now I'm feeling pissed off or I'm feeling annoyed or I'm feeling this. And and I'm like, and I don't want to bring the energy of that to you, but I want us to be able to look at something that is causing a problem for me and us be able to come up with a mutual solution to move forward in it. And being able to bring the conversation through love, through wanting to connect, through wanting you to see what I'm seeing from my own level of consciousness or whatever, or what I'm noticing that I don't like, and have you hear me. 9 times out of 10, when you hear me, you see it and you're like, oh, my bad. I didn't even know I was doing that. Or, oh, I see what you're saying. I can easily tweak this or whatever. And then I'm like, I feel seen and heard. I'm like, cool. As long as we're like moving towards a solution on it. It's like most women don't necessarily want you to be perfect, even though it may come across that way, where it's like we're holding this expectation up
Yeah.
here of like, I need for you to be perfect. It's not necessarily that. We just want to be able to be seen and heard and understood, and that you're going to help us work on it.
Yeah,
And if
absolutely.
that can be the case, we feel safe. We feel safe in
Ab-
that energy.
Absolutely. And I think what you said right there in the beginning of that is like, there is a way to understand yourself before you take yourself to somebody else and try to get them to
Yeah.
understand you.
Yeah.
And I do this a lot with guys, like, because I'm telling you, ladies, men's emotional processing is scant at a high. I mean, like when I say on average, it's very small. And so you have to
Yeah.
literally teach down to the fact of name the emotion I'm feeling. What are you feeling? Why are you feeling this currently? Is this feeling actually happening in this moment? Or is it tied to a past event? And
Hmm.
do I need to talk to somebody about this? Because I would say there's a several times you and I both where we process our own emotions and we realize like I don't need to go tell Jocelyn about it.
Yeah.
This is all my crazy assness. And even sometimes I will tell Jocelyn like, you won't believe this crazy shit I'm feeling right now. I'm just going to tell you, it ain't got nothing to do with you. And we just laugh about it and move on about business. We've gotten to that level. Now, before, probably couldn't have done that, but now we've gotten to a place where we both go to ourselves, then come to each other. And we try not to bring emotions in a moment to people because emotions in a moment to people lead to little intelligence and little understanding being available because you don't understand, and then how do you expect them to understand? And so we really train, and I do this so much with guys. Like I harp on this idea so much to guys. Like you need to understand yourself before you take any of this shit to somebody else. Because if not, you're just going to be talking about a bunch of stuff that makes no sense to somebody, and you expect them to do something with it, and you're going to run yourself off the deep end. We don't want to do that. So, but I think, like you said,
Yeah.
like know you, lead you, and then bring it to
Hmm.
somebody.
Yeah, and that's not an easy thing to do when a lot of times what's running is so unconscious and it's
Yes.
shadows. And this is like a lot of the work. And I'd say the most powerful thing that I do with clients is allowing them to be able to see the shadows and the blocks and limitations that are running in their own self, their own energy,
Yes.
and then moving into truth and alignment. Like my coaching process is awaken, align, attract, anchor, because we have to be able to see what we can't see first. And I know you run a similar process in
Yeah.
your own coaching as well. but it's like you have to be able to see yourself. And so it's hard sometimes, and it's a practice. Even when you're a self-aware, very conscious person
Hmm.
and you have a lot of work, you've done a lot of stuff, you have a lot of information, you can see yourself, you can name the thing, but it's like, but still also operating from these unconscious shadows. And for the
Hmm.
longest time, I resonated with that deeply. Like I was very conscious, I was very self-aware, I had a lot of information, I could see other people so clearly. But then I didn't 100% see how, yes, I could point something out, but I wasn't seeing how I was still running from that unconsciousness that was creating a reality over and over and over again that I no
Yes.
longer wanted, that I no longer resonated with, that I felt like I was quote unquote above. I was like, wait a minute, I've done all this work. I understand why am I so conscious, yet I still am attracting the same bullshit.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, it was because I understood a lot. I could see a lot. I could see other people very clearly,
Hmm.
but my shadows were still running the show.
And I think too, it's when you're sitting with other people and their emotions, I think people get confused what what to do with themselves. Like, what do I do with my hands? So I was like, all right, what do I do with my hands here? And so like
Hmm.
I made a simple framework for guys because guys are so uncomfortable. Like because guys asked a lot of head questions, like information gathering. Oh, who did this? When did this happen?
Hmm.
Tell me the information behind it. So there's head questions, and then there's heart questions like, why do you feel this way? How does that feeling manifest in your day to day? Like, and
Yeah.
you start to like layer in information, like, because you need some information. Guys, we're information gatherers, collector of information. We're data, data, data. So head questions are important for us. But for women, heart questions are very important because we need to know what and why they feel the way they feel. And so if you're not able to layer in, like, here's information I need, but
Hmm.
also I need to understand. And understanding is a more of a heart led, emotion based question like, oh, why do you feel this way? And
Hmm.
how does that show up when you feel this way? How do you operate in this relationship and start to really kind of understand? Because the idea is you want to be so curious about the person you're relating to that you can serve them in their spot faster than they probably can communicate it. And
Hmm.
so because like once a pattern of emotions start to pop out, you're like, okay, I can see this coming. Like I can see this and I know how to show up and be here. But I only know that because now I've been so curious and I asked so many questions. Like, hey, okay, she's here. She needs this from me.
Hmm.
She desires this from me. She needs my groundedness. She just needs some love. She needs to laugh right now. And instead of like, well, why the fuck do you feel this way? Like, what the fuck? Have I not done enough? Did I not do this? No, it's nothing about that. It's like, how do I serve? And usually the fastest way in a relationship to serve each other is how fast can I inject love into each other? And like if I can bring love to the conversation, it's like I love you and I want to understand this and I want to be able to pour love into it. Like you're gonna create a better connection than, well, that feeling makes me feel not good. And I don't like the way you feel about me because now I feel bad about me, and you need to make me feel good about me feeling bad about you. And like, oh Lord, like that's just a drama train waiting to happen.
Yeah, 100%. And we both do that kind of to a
Yes.
degree. There's like this spiral that happens, and I know like this is something we've talked about for years, and it's something that you had to kind of grow more in. I had been grounded in it, and I know you always say like you're the person that does this the best of anybody I've ever seen, and I don't know 100% where I
I don't either.
accumulated that skill, but it's that space between. It's the space of like, well, two things that you say with this, but this is where I feel like, me leading women is like when we talk about embodied leadership and being
Yeah.
embodied in what you do, this is where I'm so embodied, it's stupid. And it's two pathways. It's one, the space between. It's the space between a trigger and a reaction,
Hmm.
and it's this space of looking in the mirror versus projecting onto somebody else. And when you can master those two things, a lot of this starts dissipating to a degree. So when you can master looking in the mirror first and really like going in and dealing with all your shit before you even bring it to somebody, it's a whole different vibe and conversation. Not
Hmm.
easy, not easy, but definitely effective. And then when you can, it's like the space between I'm triggered, and I'll say this to you, I'm triggered. And when I'm really triggered, I'll be like, get the fuck away from me.
I was waiting for it to come out. All right, I'm out. Bye.
Or I'll be like, I'm super triggered right now. Like, we're not having a conversation right now. I need
Hmm.
space. I need time. I need to calm myself down. I need to regulate my nervous system. And I need to come into a consciousness so we can actually have a productive conversation that's going to go
Hmm.
anywhere. Because when you're triggered and then the other person gets triggered, your two little inner childs are fighting each other and you're not having an adult conscious conversation. And
Right.
when emotions are extremely high, intelligence is low and you're not actually having an intelligent conversation.
Yes.
So nothing productive is happening.
You
So
used
it's
to
like,
piss me off with all this, but I love it now.
yeah, because your little anxious ass couldn't
My
handle
little,
it.
my little anxious ass was like, we need to find it out right this second. I feel better.
Well, the second that I put in leave me the fuck alone energy or I need space energy, your immediate trigger is abandonment. Your immediate trigger was I need to
Hmm.
bring her closer so I feel safer. And my
Hmm.
reaction was I need to get you further away so that I can regulate myself so I don't freaking slice you.
Hmm. Now my ass is like, all right, I'm going to get in the truck and go for a drive because, and it's not like I'm avoiding you. It's like I'm avoiding my anxiety.
Yeah. And we've had so many conversations about that. Like, I'm like, no, we don't drive when we're, upset. We don't leave the house. And so we've had to like really come into what serves us. And if you're listening to this, you're going to have to come into what served you and understand each other's attachment styles and that. But there
Hmm.
is a massive power of triggered, go regulate yourself
Yes.
and then come to a conversation. Because if you're trying to fight from a trigger or reaction, the only escalation that's going to happen is more disconnect. The only
Yes.
escalation that's going to happen is like further physical violence. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean,
But it's
what
a
happens is just a lack of intelligence.
yes,
Like,
yes,
because there are no solutions, there's nobody being heard, there's nobody being understood, there's a lot of
yeah,
defense, there's a lot of offense, and it's a battle of egos.
yep,
And it's not fun, it's not cute. And you get to a point, everybody does, where you're like, I'm too fucking old for this. And now, like in the beginning, when we first started dating, like I wanted to, when we got in those stages, I was ready to like, let's fight it out. She's like, hey, I just need 5 or 10 minutes. I'm like, no, let's finish this now. Like I'm all about like now, now, now. And then she's like, no, if I tell you something right now, you won't like me. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like,
I'm
all
like,
right, have your time.
if I
Have your
tell you
time.
what
Have
I'm
your time.
feeling from this trigger, you're gonna get your feelings hurt real bad,
She says
real
shit all
bad.
the time. And so now we both take our space. I've gotten so much better at being grounded before I have conversation and really just giving myself space. Because when I get 5 minutes alone, I could probably figure out the problem in about 5 minutes. But if I try to figure it out in the middle of the conversation, I create 42 more problems.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's something that I've always been way better at, obviously, more regulated
Yeah.
in that sense, but also still recognizing I'm in a trigger and understanding that a lot of times that's my own stuff I need to go regulate. And sometimes it's a standard that you need to set or a conversation you need to have, but it comes from the space of like, I care about me, I care about you, I care about this relationship versus you're the fucking problem, you're an issue, I'm like going to now chastise every single ounce of your soul and who you are because you're the piece of shit on the freaking bottom of my shoe. And we do everything we can to
You're killing me
lower
right
that
now.
person. We do everything we can in those moments to lower that person, and we would do this, and it was fucked up. But it's like it's like a problem. It's like seriously who we've been, and
Yeah, but everybody does this, and that's where this is why we do what we do. Is like there is a simple solution
yeah,
to this, yet we continue down the path of simple destruction. And so
yeah,
like we want to bring like how do we reconnect instead of disconnect the relationship? And it's you got to slow down. And I always this is my trigger word for guys is like slow as bro. The slower we can go in these scenarios, the faster we're going to get to the result. The faster you go with your
hmm
emotions, the slower the results are going to come because you're going to do a bunch of dumb shit
hmm
and she's going to do a bunch of dumb shit. And then y'all got more problems to solve
yeah.
than the small one that you were coming to the conversation with.
Yeah, and it's all just a stack and stack and they stack. And then you have this massive blowout. And then you get to hang on to the story of their reaction from that trigger.
Mm.
And that's what actually then transcends into all the future moments. It's like how that person said what they said or how they acted in a trigger. And then we anchor that evidence in, which only serves our wounds. And then we continue to create and anchor in the story of the evidence of I can't trust the masculine, or I'm never enough, or I can't express my emotions, or whatever the story that is subconsciously already running that you are actually seeing a mirror play out in these situations will continue to anchor in and continue to be the same story and will continue to guide the same action that you continue to face this situation over and over and over again and continue to get more and more disconnected until eventually it's like how do we even get back?
Yeah,
And yeah.
because that's
So,
what happens. It's like you get so far down the road. And this is where divorce tends to happen. It's like you've gotten so far down the road of tearing each other down, you don't even have a clue how to build each other up again. And it's like you want to see the good, but you've said and seen and created so much bad. It's hard for you to peek at a good thing anymore.
yeah, and there's so many different stacks, and it's all energy that then you have to completely unwind. And I always say, like, if you don't clean up your side of the street and you don't see how you're energetically showing up as a wound match for this, or the reflection of this, or this is a mirror, what you're available for, if you don't fix the problem, you're going to attract the same demon in a different dude. And it's, we can say, oh, I'm going to leave this relationship. Now, granted, are there I don't want to I had to caveat here, are there certain people that are not meant to be together or their season is over or that there's a level of toxicity that no longer is aligned or there's a level of growth that you've outgrown each other? Yes, all those things are real. But if we don't actually do the work on our side of the street of what created these things to a degree, and we don't see ourselves, they will repeat until we see them because our soul is seeking
Absolutely.
alchemization of these shadows, of these programmings, of these patterns, of these habits. And this is what we do. This is the work we do. And this
Yes.
is why we're so powerful in the work we do because we can transcend people to rise and alchemize these things that they've been running from for years or not seeing, or they've done a ton of work, but there's a level or a layer deeper that's the embodiment of the work that then transcends different external reality. And that's what we do. That's what we're powerful at as coaches. It's what we do in our courses. It's what we do in our programs. It's what we do in our private coaching. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, this is speaking to me, I resonate with this, or I don't 100% see myself in these things and I really want to, and I want to like not have this pattern continue to run. I want to create more connection and deep emotional intimacy, therefore, even more physical intimacy. And I want to be able to grow as a conscious woman or a conscious man so I can have a more powerful relationship. Reach out, check the call notes. We have offers coming up, we have coaching spots available, and we'd love to have a conversation with you. And we can see these things so powerfully, and we can help you ascend an embodied leader of your own self and your masculine leadership and your feminine leadership to
Hmm.
show up and actually create a different result. So I think that's a wrap for today, babe.
I think so. I think this was well
That's good.
rounded and beautiful. Yeah.
Yep. All
Guys,
right,
thank
guys.
y'all for
Thank you for
joining.
listening to this episode. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.